Right now, if something feels wrong in your body, you have an answer within minutes. A search, a call, an appointment, someone with a medical degree telling you exactly what's happening inside you. Now picture the opposite extreme. 70,000 years ago, no hospitals, no medicine cabinet, no idea in any real sense of what was actually happening inside a human body. So when an early human got sick, or hurt, or bitten by something venomous, what actually happened next? The uncomfortable answer is, a lot of the time, they died. For most of human history, roughly half of all children never reached adulthood. Not from anything exotic, from infections that a single course of modern antibiotics would clear up in a week. Surviving childhood wasn't the default outcome of being human. It was the exception you had to earn. But no doctors doesn't mean no medicine. Early humans were paying close, careful attention to what helped and what didn't, long before anyone understood why. Willow bark, chewed or brewed, eased pain and fever, tens of thousands of years before anyone isolated the compound in it that we now call aspirin. Certain molds, packed onto open wounds, seemed to stop them from festering, long before anyone had any concept of a bacteria-killing compound, let alone the word penicillin. This is the part people get wrong about prehistoric humans. It wasn't pure superstition. It was trial and error, running for tens of thousands of years, generation after generation, quietly noticing what worked. The failures just weren't written down, because there was no writing yet, and often because the person who tried it didn't survive to pass on what happened. Alongside the things that actually worked, plenty didn't, and a meaningful amount was actively dangerous. And here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. Trepanning, deliberately scraping or drilling a hole directly into a living person's skull, is one of the oldest known surgical procedures on Earth, with evidence going back over 7,000 years. Skull remains show clear signs of healing around the hole, meaning a real number of patients survived the procedure. Nobody fully agrees on why it was done. Head trauma, seizures, or the belief that it released something trapped inside the skull are all real theories. People were doing skull surgery with sharpened stone tools, millennia before anyone understood what a brain actually did. Whether you survived an illness depended enormously on who was in your group. Almost every early human community had someone who functioned as a healer. The person who remembered which plant stopped bleeding, which one eased a fever, which berries would kill you outright. That knowledge wasn't written anywhere. It lived entirely in memory, passed from one person to the next, refined slowly across generations by nothing more than careful observation and enormous risk. The line between healer and spiritual leader was often non-existent. Illness was frequently treated as much as a spiritual event as a physical one, something to be driven out, appeased, or explained through forces no one could see. And from inside that worldview, this made complete sense. If you have no concept that invisible microorganisms exist, something unseen has entered this person, is a genuinely reasonable explanation for why they suddenly seem to be dying from the inside. What early humans were actually doing, underneath the ritual, was running a real, if brutally slow, information network. A treatment that worked would spread. A healer who lost too many patients would be trusted less. Across tens of thousands of years, that slow filtering process is the direct ancestor of what would eventually become real medicine. Willow bark's descendant sitting in your medicine cabinet right now as a small white pill. So here's the uncomfortable part. Somewhere back along your ancestral line, an early human nearly died from something you wouldn't think twice about today. An infected cut, a fever that simply had to run its course, a wound that either closed or didn't. They survived against real odds, with nothing but plant knowledge, careful observation, and luck. You're not just descended from people who were strong. You're descended from people who got lucky, one infection at a time, tens of thousands of times in a row. If you liked this, subscribe. Every week we dig up another uncomfortable question about what we are.